people don't actually really understand that like the record labels are doing fine. They're doing great.
Yeah.
They're making a lot of money. They're making more and more money, and the artists aren't.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Cloud Machine podcast. My name is Mat Landry, and in the 66th episode, I'm here with Julien Laferrière. Throughout the podcast, we discuss playback direction, touring, influences and interests, the importance of friendship in the industry, his origin story, the music industry, and much, much more. We also play the Dreamfest Game. Thanks for listening. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Cloud Machine podcast, a platform that allows us to learn more about the music industry through conversations with artists, people in the business, music, individuals, creatives, and much more. This podcast is brought to you by Eights, a musical direction and playback company out of Toronto. Our goal with this podcast is to create a network and shine a light on all the stuff that is happening in the music world, topics and realities that are gatekept, and the people and roles that may often be overlooked. This week, I have the immense pleasure of welcoming Julien Laferrière to the podcast. He's a playback director and musician now based in Los Angeles, California, originally from Northern Ontario, like yours truly. He's been touring, wearing many hats for close to a decade now, and is currently on tour with No Con in Toronto as we speak. And this is why we're doing first, I called it a physical podcast, but I guess in-person podcast. I've known Julien for over a decade now. We were roommates over the pandemic as well, and I'm stoked to get to chat with the man today. So please welcome Julien Laferrière to the podcast. Hello, Julien. How are you?
Dude, I'm very well. It's good to be here.
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
You're currently here in Toronto for the, I guess, Stick Season tour. Is that correct?
Yeah. We're just about to wrap up the last few shows of this Canadian leg. And we had night 2 last night at the Scotiabank Arena, Air Canada Centre. And we got night 3 coming up on Tuesday. And that's about it for Canada.
Is that like wild to say, the Scotiabank Arena? Because like, especially growing up as Leafs fan specifically.
Yeah, it's always a bit strange, especially because the Megatron has been changed, so it's now just like the biggest Megatron ever. It's so ridiculous. Yeah, it is a bit strange.
Great.
Yeah.
Let's start the pod how we always start the podcast. As your favorite experience ever as a fan at a live show, like what's your favorite live show experience as a fan?
I'm not only saying this because I know we're both Radiohead fans, but I may say when I saw Radiohead's first show back in Toronto after their kind of deadly incident that happened in the early 2000s. But yeah, they played at the Scotiabank, what was then the Air Canada Centre.
Yeah.
And it was like one of my first like big arena concerts. And it was like one of the most incredible experiences where I just like was in such a trance the entire show, and felt like I just connected to a performance in such a deep way. And then at the end, anyone who's there remembers the moment when Tom came out for the encore and asked for a moment of silence and did not get it, and then played Karma Police.
Yeah.
And I cried the whole time. Yeah, that was special. But I hope I get to see them again.
Man.
Were you there?
No, I'm such a huge Radiohead fan. I consume some of their stuff almost every day, but I've never seen them live. I've seen like a bunch of their solo projects, The Smile now, but I haven't seen them live. Is there a project, campaign / era or tour, even in your case, that would best represent your work for those who don't know Julien Laferrière?
It's challenging because I guess I've done like a few different things.
Yes.
But I mean, something that I maybe would say I'm the most proud of, or thing that I feel like, represents me the most would probably be the work that I did with Salt last year.
Yeah.
Where I got to not only kind of program and help with the creative of the show, but got to operate it and work very closely with the artist. And then, after the show happened in London, obviously the press and reviews don't actually mean shit, but it was just so, it was just such a nice thing to see, like only positive reviews
Yeah.
after the show came out.
Yeah.
And it was like, for me, it was like the coolest thing ever, because I was literally working with like my favorite artist. And it was like, yeah, I just feel like it's a good example of something that I'm capable of pulling off, something that's absolutely insane and that people
Yeah.
thought was not possible.
Yeah, sure.
And it ended up being an absolute success
Yeah.
in the end. Yeah.
I know that there's like a lot of like NDAs surrounding the project. But for those who don't know, can you speak a bit about what SALT is and your experience there?
Yeah. I mean, there's some information online about them, and I think
Yeah,
since the show, things have gotten a little more
sure.
open. But yeah, I mean, they're a collective of artists that consist primarily of Cleo Sol and her husband, Inflow, and
Yeah.
and there's also, Melissa Young, Kid Sister, and a few others as well.
Little Sims.
Yeah, Lil Sims is quite involved as well, and I would say like Jack Pignate and I'm blanking. Chronics as well. I would say that would be like SALT, but ultimately it's Cleo and Inflow, and yeah, I mean they just make music for a living purely, and they just have such a love for art, and their vision is just so grandiose. I've never seen or been around people with such incredible ideas.
Yeah.
And it's really quite it's insane to just be around that kind of energy. These people walk in the room and they lock your eyes and they shake your hand and they ask you how you're doing, and they actually want to know.
Yeah. Oh yeah, totally. And that's not always the experience.
Yeah, it's cool.
With that experience, it was more of like an experiential rather concert experience in London, correct? It was like a warehouse, and there's like multiple stages and stuff like that.
It was a very interactive kind of concert experience that these people who bought tickets, the 2,000 people that were lucky enough to be in the room that night, had no clue what they were in for. And that was the exciting part, was like, I was, standing at the entrance because there was a whole kind of art installation, into this massive IKEA converted warehouse venue, and seeing people's faces as they walked through the end of the exhibit into the actual concert hall was just like the coolest thing. People were just like, what is happening? I honestly took some videos of people because like the look on their face. Well, you essentially walked into, this establishment, and there was just so much. They filled this humongous warehouse with like structures and artifacts and things that were just like, they just built purely just for the experience and for people to just like take it all in. It was beautiful.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
On the podcast, we do a quote segment. And this year's quote is by Joni Mitchell. Her quote is, "I heard someone from the music business saying they are no longer looking for talent. They want people with a certain look and a willingness to cooperate." And this is from 2004. This is 20 years ago now. What are your first instincts when you hear that quote?
Yeah. Joni's on to something.
Yeah. And this is 20 years ago.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, she's right. I mean, I'm a little removed, yes, I work in the music industry, but I'm like not an artist anymore because of kind of that sort of experience I had with it when I was an artist, and I still see a version of it. I mean, things have changed so much, and things are always changing, and I think that that quote is correct to some extent, but of course there's always still art and great things coming out, but the music industry sucks. Let's just face it. Let's just it's tough. And
how is it, how do you interact with the music part, with the business part of it? Because typically your role is very technological and creative as well. How do you interface with the business part?
I would say it's mostly dealing with artist management more than anything.
Yeah.
These days I rarely have to deal with labels, or even promoters or any of that stuff. It's kind of now, thankfully, only just management,
Yeah.
and the artist directly, which is great. And I think I'm very fortunate to have worked with such great people,
Mm-hmm.
even though sometimes, it can be really challenging when people have an idea or a vision for something and maybe people don't see it correctly. But I would say definitely the thing that I see the most is people being in a position where they don't have maybe the experience to kind of fully, what's the word?
Like make the decisions, or
Yeah, I mean, they don't have the experience to like make the correct decisions or to fully like,
understand what's happening.
yeah, yeah. And I see that happen a lot, where it tends to just make things very difficult for people who do have a lot of experience, and it can create, especially on tour, can create some hard dynamics between crew and artist and stuff.
Oh, sure.
But yeah,
Where do you think the industry is going?
it's a tough one, man.
Yeah.
Like, there's this guy Orlando Higginbottom, Totally Enormous Extinct Dinosaurs, who has spoken a lot about this and about, particularly streaming
Yeah.
and just kind of where money in music really is. And I think people should listen to this guy,
Yeah.
because
Yeah. Yeah.
people don't actually really understand that like the record labels are doing fine. They're doing great.
Yeah.
They're making a lot of money. They're making more and more money, and the artists aren't. And the reality is like Spotify maybe isn't really the enemy in the end, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
I think streaming is great. There's, it's different than what we're used to, but
Yes.
ultimately, yeah, I think the real issue is the people above that are kind of controlling the whole thing. And not all labels obviously are shit. There's so many great independent labels, but like we know the one that is literally running the industry, and there's like two companies in particular that are kind of running everything,
Yeah.
Live Nation and Universal Music are like, they run and own everything.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, I mean, it's a bit scary. I don't really know where we're headed, because it's just getting harder and harder for artists to live and make art for a living.
Mm-hmm.
We have to make sacrifices in order to just be able to do it. So I think we're figuring it out.
Yeah. Yeah.
As it's happening. It's changing so quickly. So
Yeah. I was taught during school, whatever, to think about streaming as somewhat of a positive, because before streaming, people were just getting their music online for free and weren't paying for it anyway. And artists weren't getting any $0 from it. And now at least they're getting dollars. Not to say that it's the solution, but at least we're getting some money from it. What about some developments that you're seeing right now, maybe in the touring industry? What are some of the things that you have your eye on right now?
I have to think on that one.
Sure.
I mean, I like that the industry has changed a lot for the better. There's a lot more space for people who, were very much like, just didn't have a space in the industry whatsoever. Women and just like, I mean, yeah, I'd have to think on that one.
No, but it's a great answer what you're giving. You're seeing a lot of space for people of color, women,
yeah.
specifically.
I mean,
but
even when we started,
yeah,
even just 10 years ago, it was so different to where it is now. And I'm really grateful that like now for example, on a touring crew, I've seen more women in power of the tour,
yeah,
up higher up in production and stuff than ever before. And that's super badass. And it really, I think, just helps the dynamics a lot
yeah,
on the road. And yeah, it's good to see for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You mentioned when you started 10 years ago. I just wanted to transition over to the origin story.
Yes. Yes.
Can you give me the lowdown on where you grew up and your creative upbringing? Yeah.
I mean, yeah. I mean, we're from a strange place.
Yeah.
I think me and you are some of the only people who've kind of left to kind of do our thing. Yeah. I mean, grew up just outside of Sudbury and played in punk bands and French bands and left as soon as I finished high school and moved to Toronto and did my major in drums at Humber and kind of just started touring as a drummer in my first or second year.
Yeah.
Started touring the US and playing in bands, and I think by my third year I was getting pretty sick of, you know, not sleeping and eating well. I was, you know, pretty poor and didn't have any money and was like not living a very healthy and happy life.
Yeah.
But I was like, you know, touring and doing all this stuff. And I don't know, I think I was really struggling with my relationship with like my instrument, and like being a drummer for a living was like kind of freaking me out a little bit.
Yeah, sure.
And then kind of out of nowhere, you know, there was this guy who came into my life who just kind of like started mentoring me, and you know, I'm really cutting that whole part of the story quite a bit.
There's quite a bit of time there, but
yeah. I mean, yeah, I kind of was always running a little bit of tracks with the artists I was playing for, and then, you know, DJ Shine out in Toronto kind of started teaching me all about Ableton and stuff, and then he kind of got me my first couple of gigs here in Toronto, and kind of just went off from there. I just really loved it. I really loved doing it.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like it really flexed my creative brain and my technical brain. It was such a good balance of the two. And yeah, I mean, fast forward a few years, and you know, I was living in Los Angeles with the band I was playing at the time, Wild Rivers, and
Yeah.
Jason, DJ Shine had kind of got me some gigs while I was out there. And yeah, and I mean, just I made a bunch of friends and connections while I was in LA naturally. Like I wasn't just like out there like, you know, networking. I was just making real friends that I still have to today. And
Through work.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I started just actually doing real gigs when I was out there. And, you know, as soon as the pandemic was over, you know, I moved back as soon as I could. And so that would be 2021. And I've been like pretty much on album cycle tours since then, since we were living together.
Yeah,
and I didn't even live there half the time because I was away. And then I'd come back for Christmas and I'm like, hey dude, I love you. I know we still have like another 4 months left of our lease, but like, I'm going to move out, moving back to LA. And
it was like, hey, like we already paid like a bunch of this, so you can just leave and not worry about money. Yeah, exactly.
It was worth it for me. I was like, fuck, I have an opportunity to go back here, and I have some work, and you know, it was a hard decision, but well, it wasn't hard. I just knew it was the right decision. I was just like, let's go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to take it back to like the early days here. What were the like early influences for you, like growing up playing drums?
I mean, all the weird French shit. I'm so inspired by our local music scene in Sudbury and all the people we saw playing in bars and stuff like that had such an impact. They're so talented. You know, obviously like Fairfield is a big influence.
Yeah.
Olivier Fairfield is a big influence of the two of us, and one of my favorite like producers. And yeah, I mean, I feel like the music from my community and my roots has like the biggest impact on me. And yeah, I mean, so much of the Canadian music world has had the biggest impact on me, and opened me up to so much music, you know.
how do those influences like show up on the day-to-day or in your creative now, like
Mm.
in your creative process? Like, do you pull some influences there? Do you think about it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, especially when I was like playing a lot of drums and playing on records and
Mm-hmm.
writing music every single day, like all of these records that I listened to so much were just so clearly, you know, referenced on these recordings. You know, when you listen to like some of the Wild Rivers records that I played
Hmm.
on, like, you can definitely hear a lot of the influence from, Leaf, Fullback, and a lot of Fairfield style, and so much other stuff. You can really hear it in the songs,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
big time, yeah. And even just to today, um, when I'm producing and stuff, I feel like there's somehow I'm able to like pull a lot of the weird ideas they had into some of my own music and my own production. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's fun.
Mm-hmm. What was the first like gig that changed things like like professionally for you, rather? Maybe in the playback world.
Um, I might say perhaps it was that's a tough one because I feel like every single thing that I've worked on has just been in this like order of
Progression.
progression that's just
Yeah.
like led me to the next thing. And had I not done this thing, I wouldn't have been prepared for this thing. Do you know what I mean? It's really beautiful the way it's all folded out. But I mean, I really, I worked with with SG Lewis, who's a producer and DJ out of London, and we did so much together over like the course of 3 years, and um, that was like a pretty defining moment on like I felt like I really figured out what I like and what I don't like,
Yes. Yeah.
and I really figured out I was like I love dance music and electronic music, and that's where I feel like my creativity shines its best. And just being able to like create, like take dance records and then recreate them for a live performance
Yeah. Yeah.
on
Yeah.
a stage with band members or just CDJs and gears, just like it just makes my brain just go off. There's just so many cool things you can do,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and it's limitless,
Mm-hmm.
and making people dance, it's just like so fun,
Yeah.
you know
Yeah. And you're
yeah.
that guy naturally too.
Yeah.
You know.
Thank you.
Yeah. For those who don't know, can we introduce the role of playback, and specifically, you know, your role as a playback director?
hmm
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important to distinguish the role on because every project is different. You can
Yes.
just
Yeah.
simply be an operator, or you can be, the music director but like I think on some shows, like specifically a playback director is, you're the show director. Like you are running the show, and you are the pacing of each song as if it was a record,
Mm-hmm.
like you are in charge of these moments and how the flow is of the show. And it's really important. It's a really important role to do it right, and to be listening, and to know your artist, and to know when they're maybe going to talk a little longer, or when they're just not even going to talk.
Yeah.
And you got to learn their body language and their cues, and every night you on the things they say. And um so yeah, I mean, specifically touring as a playback engineer or playback director, is one version of this role. But you know it's everything before the show leaves rehearsals is like a whole other
Oh yeah.
part of the role that often gets overlooked, and is like the most important part.
Yes.
um
Because that's where a lot of the programming happens.
yeah,
Yeah.
so much programming.
Yeah. And for those who don't know, basically playback is sometimes, sometimes it's the audio that you're hearing, sometimes it's the changes of the instruments on stage, and sometimes it's also the video as
Yeah.
well. How does your brain sort of navigate those all those things in rehearsals, excuse me, specifically?
Yeah. Well, it's great when you work with, for example, a designer, or a creative company or whatever, what you have, it's who understands all departments. So as a playback engineer, basically, you would be in direct contact with the designer of the show, who would be the person that is, creating the lighting design, who's creating the video, who's creating the set design, and you're, as a playback engineer, you're responsible for, being on top of your time code files, which is really important. And so essentially, you have strips of time code. For anyone who doesn't know what time code is, it's just an audio file that you have with every song, and you have to be so on top of making sure that any changes that are happening in rehearsal or during the tour, that you are communicating those changes with every department in such detail, because they're programming every song to this timeline. So if they say, oh, let's cut a bar or let's add a section here, like, you need to reflect those changes and make sure that you're communicating them. Otherwise, people will be very upset with you.
Yeah.
And always like keeping a good track of your recordings. I have recordings of every single show. Every night I log everything, because if we need to go back and listen to something or reference something, it's really important to have all that.
Yeah. And just to repeat on what time code is, basically like the stopwatch audio file that people reference at the same time. So let's say I'm pressing play on the playback, rig. They're referencing the same time at, front of house for the lighting and for the video. So let's say, this song A starts at 3 minutes and 25 seconds while they're seeing it at the same time at the front of house, and they can program to the exact millisecond with the audio, basically.
Yeah, so this way, everything is perfectly in sync.
Yes.
And the show is running as one fluid piece.
Yeah.
And there may be moments where the band is playing and there isn't time code, and then it'll start at a certain section. There's all kinds of ways you can do it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's a very important piece. Every show is programmed to time code.
Yes, it's a secret time for everybody listening. But
yeah, and also, like, if anyone has worked in film or anything, it's the same thing that you would see on a film set when there's like a time on a screen.
Yeah,
it's the same. It's essentially the same thing,
and it's why they slate it as well.
Yeah,
stuff like that.
Exactly.
Fantastic. Can you talk to us a little bit about your day-to-day on tour?
Yeah, I mean,
depends on the tour, I guess.
Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
Fortunately, as a part of backline department and part of audio department, I'm the last to start, the first to finish, which I'm very grateful for. I do not take that lightly. But yeah, I mean, I would get to the venue, sometime between 11 and noon, and at least on these arenas and stuff like that, everything has already been loaded into the venue off the truck. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we'd get in, we'd start setting up around lunchtime, and you do a sound check around 3. I'm always trying to like get up in the morning and either go to the gym before I start working. I also bring my bike on tour, so I tend to go for rides in the morning.
Perks of the tour leaving from LA.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And also, like, we have trucks, so I'm able to like put my bike in the truck and safely. I'm so grateful. Yeah, and we're so grateful to be traveling with like catering. So we have just wonderful meals every day, and so yeah, I mean, day to day is just like making sure I'm sleeping well.
Yeah,
and feel rested as much as I can, and I'm exercising and I'm eating well and hydrating, and just trying to stay on top of those things that keep me grounded and healthy and happy.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, and the show, I mean, the show finishes around 11. I'm like, as soon as my stuff is on the truck, I am in the shower and straight to bed.
Pretty much,
usually the first one to bed. Yeah, I take pride in that. Yeah.
So basically, you get your cases off, and then there's a minimal setup for Playback World, correct?
Yeah, for myself. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you're also in charge of the drums.
Yeah,
specifically for this tour. Yeah.
Yeah.
And what does that look like for you in regards to like maintenance and stuff like that?
Yeah, I mean, I've got a great drum vault that fits all my things.
Mm-hmm.
It just gets forked up onto the stage, and I have a local stagehand or someone help me set up the drums. It doesn't take me very long, and I tend to change the drum heads every 2 or 3 shows. And yeah, it's really not much maintenance. I mean, I've been doing this my whole life, so I'm pretty quick at it, and it's really quite fun. And I think the main reason why I'm doing drums on this tour is I kind of scratches my itch to get to play every day. And
sure.
Yeah, me and a front of house engineer get to mess around and play some drums every day. It's always really fun.
Yeah. What's the most important thing for you on tour?
I mean, kind of briefly mentioned it, but just like taking good care of myself and staying on top of it is just like has become my focus and something that I'm really passionate about, but also excited about. I've just been on tours where I didn't sleep well, wasn't eating well, was drinking and all these things. And I just felt awful, felt terrible. And I would come home and I would just feel terrible.
Yeah.
And home wouldn't make me feel better. And it was just terrible. And I've been sober now for over a year, and I've just made a lot of decisions based on truly to just help me last longer on the road and feel better. And I'm so grateful I made these changes in my life, because now it's just like I sleep better, I feel better every day. I'm able to like interact with people on a much healthier and more positive. Like every day I just feel like I'm a better version of myself.
Yeah.
Obviously briefly touching on that, but excuse me. Yeah, I mean, just exercising and sleeping and eating well. Oh my God, I can't stress how important it is.
And I just want to congratulate you for that as well. And I see the difference. So it's really great, and it's fantastic that you also see that in yourself as well.
Yeah.
And I just want let's open up that conversation then. What do you think about when you think mental health and wellness? And I wanted to open up this conversation because I've always known you as that guy. Always love that your own time, your plants, when you did have plants and when you were more at home, or you love reading, having your time, the coffee in the morning. That was a very big thing when we lived together as well. That was like your moment to think about starting your day and stuff. And just I feel like I got that sort of look into your life from that point of view. Mental health and wellness, what does that sort of mean to you?
I mean, I'm glad that the conversations people are. It's more common now to have these conversations for people to talk about mental health.
Yeah.
We're in a day now where we're in an era of touring where there's more services provided specifically to touring crew and artists. There's organizations like Backline, for example, who we've partnered with on this tour, who have been providing mental health services to us on the tour.
Mm-hmm.
So who, if anyone's worked with a therapist or something, they're providing funding for us to talk with our therapist on the road, for example. And everyone has been really, really excited about it, and I think it's really shown a lot of. I mean, Noah's taking very good care of us. He truly does really care, and has made an effort to make sure that we all take advantage of it. And but
is there a rep on tour, like for, let's say, Backline, for instance? Is there somebody there physically on tour with you guys for mental health and wellness, or is it very much an organization that takes care of some of the costs to facilitate those services?
Yeah, well, essentially Noah has a fundraiser who have donated funds to help us.
Oh, great.
And then Backline is essentially an organization that helps connect us with all of the resources that we would need.
Right.
You know, things like, you know, there's like this great app, Breathwork, for example,
Yeah,
that
sure.
we get for free through them. And there's just like all these great resources that they have. And they can also connect you with, you know, mental health providers and stuff if you don't have them. But another big thing specifically for our crew that we've been really into, we've been joking about this. We've been calling it the spa tour because we've just been like, yeah, everyone's really into like hitting the saunas and ice baths. So that's been a common thing we've all been doing together as a crew, and which has been really nice on our days off to like spend the afternoon at a spa, and everyone comes back the next day feeling so relaxed and everyone's glowing. And, you know, it's so funny. It helps everyone sleep better as well. And so yeah, that's been really cool.
How important is it for you? Because I know you come, like your interests were that. How important for you is it to know that your artist is also into that?
I mean, it's amazing.
Yeah.
We all just have so much in common.
Sure.
That's great. Yeah, we're so lucky to have such great people out with us. But yeah, I mean, specifically just like my relationship with Noah is just like so awesome, and he's such a dear friend of mine now, and just grateful to be around such good people. And I think, I don't know why I'm so lucky. I've just always had such good people in my life.
Yeah.
I'm truly, you know, it's a blessing to be around all these people. It's crazy.
Wanted to change a little bit of the subject in the same topic though. How have like substances, how do substances play a role in touring these days at all levels? I know from experience that it's way less than what it was in maybe the 80s or 90s, but it still plays a part. How do you see it?
Yeah, I mean, it's so funny seeing family on tour and stuff. They're like, you know, so what was any, well, you know,
Yeah.
what's it,
Yeah.
you know, and I'm like, no,
Yeah.
but you know, I think the main common thing I mean, in everything in every world, but particularly touring is alcohol is just so, it's just everywhere.
Yeah, it's
And
accessible. It's in your green room.
yeah, and definitely there are people who, whether they know it or not, struggle with addiction to alcohol. And I see it a lot, and sometimes it's like it kind of hurts to see friends like who like struggle with it, and whether they know it or not. But I mean, yeah, I mean, some people just like after a show having a drink is just like their thing, and they love it, and I respect that. And you can't really take that away from someone. But you know, I love having a non-alcoholic beer after a show. Like there's something about it that's so refreshing. Like I love that ritual of hanging out after and talking about the show and just kind of winding down for a bit. But just to go back to it, you don't really see too much, you know, of the more intense substance use like back in the day. Like I personally haven't really experienced it, but in maybe other genres of music, and maybe more
sure
a bit more common, but it's definitely still out there.
Yeah,
those things are still out there, but you might just not see it as much. People maybe hide it.
Yeah,
you know.
How has being sober over the last year changed your professional but also your personal life?
Yeah, I think it's just made, for me personally, it's just made everything better. I just feel like I'm a much better version of myself, and it seems like every day it gets better. Like I don't know, you know, it's kind of crazy. Yeah, I mean, I really struggle with smoking cannabis for many years, and you know, after I stopped smoking cannabis, this is one that I feel like people maybe don't talk about enough.
Sure.
But like, you know, people have been smoking, you know, daily for years. Like it's hard to stop because it's such a regular thing. And after I somehow managed to stop smoking cannabis, it like felt like my world changed more than anything. And everything got better. I don't like
crazy,
you know, It sounds just crazy, but I don't drink coffee anymore, which is also insane. Like,
Yeah,
I don't know why, but yeah, if people are struggling with cannabis or maybe don't realize they're struggling with smoking, talk to your friends who also smoke and see how they feel. Because like the one time I had a friend like talk about it, I was like, shit, you too? Like, I thought it was just me.
Yeah.
I thought I was the only person in the world who was like, I want to stop smoking, but I can't do it.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I actually started talking to some people about it, I was like, damn, like, I'm not the only one.
Yeah.
And so,
yeah. It's super important to talk to people because, you know, especially I feel like the guys, because a lot of guys, well, I think it's getting better, but a lot of guys aren't talking about what they're struggling with historically. You know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Glad when the guys crack open a little bit.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, yeah. How have friendships and connections impacted your career? When I think about Julien, I think charisma, fun, but also professional as well. Very friendly with people, and I always find that you always got the friend here and the friend there, and that's been through experiences. But yeah, why or how have friendships and connections impacted your career, and also why should one deem friendship important in the music industry?
I mean, it's the most important part. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I've never like tried to make connections, if that makes any sense. Like, I felt like I've just genuinely met people who I've been like, oh, I really get along with this person well, and don't even know what they do in music or if they're even in music. And then you just, I don't know. I feel like I've just grown friendships with people, and then one day someone is just like, hey, are you free for this?
Yeah.
You know,
Sure.
It's purely just been that, because people, maybe they don't even know if you're good at your job, but they like you and they like being around you, or they feel like the other people would enjoy being around you. They want that more than like someone who's just like maybe the best at their job. Like, you have to also be good at your job. Like, this is a whole other conversation, but like, I don't know. I just feel like I've been surrounded with such good people, and just my purely friendships have been what have led me to all the work that I've done. Is I've just worked with friends. It's been great. Yeah.
Do you think that people get friendlier as you let's say go up in the industry, as in work with bigger and bigger artists?
No.
Okay, that's great.
No.
Yeah, because I've seen this in the past where it's like being not necessarily surprised, but always or I guess like just genuinely surprised and going to bigger camps and meeting people in these bigger camps and just getting to know these people, and they're so amazing. And I know there are some artists that value that more than others. But I guess you don't necessarily see the correlation between being a very like a successful artist and having good people on tour, which is fine.
I would kind of agree with you. Like, I have noticed that.
Yeah,
but
it's not always the truth.
There's shitty people all the time.
Yeah,
you get people that maybe just are going through something, or they're just not nice. And they're in this position they're in for some reason. And it's like,
yes,
fine.
Yeah,
sure.
Just because they've been there so long or stuff
what
like that.
have you, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah.
Can we talk about some touring highlights? Maybe top 3 for you?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say that Salt show was number 1 forever.
Yeah.
That was the funnest thing, coolest thing ever. Yeah, I mean, so I think something I'm probably like the most proud of, one of the coolest moments, was probably like when I got to do Coachella last year with SG Lewis. We did the like outdoor theater sunset on the Friday evening. And,
yeah.
You know, this was like my show that I programmed and designed and music directed, and it was, you know, my arrangements, and got to work with a really great band, and just like seeing it on stage and was just like such a cool thing. I was like, this is insane.
Yeah.
I get to see like my ideas and see the way that like all these so many people dancing and you know, having like these crazy guests come out. It was just insane. And then get to do it the next weekend again. 2 weekends in a row,
exactly.
Yeah,
because that's the thing about Coachella. You're like, oh my God, what a weekend. And then you get to do it all over again.
Weekend 2 is always better. Yeah.
You think so?
Yeah, I'm a weekend 2 guy.
Just because of logistics and stuff? Like you've done it again. You've done it already.
Everyone's always shy and nervous for the week 1, and there's always guests week 1, and then week 2, everyone's like just kind of settled in, and it's always like near like when tours are ending as well in the spring, and everyone's kind of going home for a little bit. Seems that Coachella is always like the end of a tour, but yeah, that was a really special moment. And so proud of Sam, everything he's accomplished. Yeah, it was a big year for us.
Great.
Yeah.
Any tips on touring? Just generally?
Yeah. Oh, so many. Yeah. I was talking about this. A good friend of ours recently was going out on his first tour and on a bus and stuff like that. And you know, he was kind of just asking me a couple of questions. I was like, listen, I got you. I was like, I've got a list, and I've got so many. I was so excited to share all these things with them. But like, yeah, I mean, if you're going out on let's say you're going out on your first like bus tour or something like that, just the most important thing I always say is like bringing a piece of home with you, whether it's like a stuffed animal or your pillow or a blanket or something that you can, you know, put in your bunk to make you feel a little grounded at night. And I think like separating where you sleep and rest from where you like hang out or where you work, because like to me, like my bunk is not somewhere I go to like go on my phone or read or do anything. Like my bunk is purely where I go to close my eyes and sleep.
Yes, yeah.
And the moment I'm up, I'm out of my bunk. But yeah, I mean, a couple other things would be like, don't bring too much shit. You're gonna hate it. Like, don't bring too much stuff. I love getting nerdy about like packing and like what to bring, and like bring so much socks and underwear so you don't have to do laundry every week.
Yes,
I don't know. There's so many little things that you figure out along the way.
Have you had some like aha moments? Like, holy shit, I've been doing it like this for so long, and now I should have been doing it like this.
Maybe just like bringing a bigger suitcase. I always packed like so light. I had this tiny suitcase.
Sure.
And it was always just like, I don't know. Everyone was always like, oh, that's a small suitcase. And I was like, yeah, I mean, I like to travel light. And then I recently got a bigger suitcase, and I was just like, oh my God, I can bring my yoga mat and my like foam roller, and like, you bring like a massage gun, just all these like lame things that like on a day off in a hotel or whatever, I can just like take advantage of. I don't know.
Yeah.
Just, you know, and oh my God, an eye mask. Bring an eye mask. Bring earplugs.
Yeah. Any specific recs for the eye mask?
I just get one from flights. I don't know.
Sure,
I just got this Delta Toomey one, but I don't know. Maybe something that's like, I don't know the name of the material, but whatever that like soft.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, there's the ones where you can get, and they don't go straight on your eyes. Like there's some like sleep masks that go like right on your eyes, and then there's the ones that are just like cutouts.
Oh, interesting.
And there's ones that have like the cutouts that are like that they have like cooling gel like inside, so like it doesn't really feel like you don't have a mask on necessarily. I don't know if you have any specific recs like that, or even headphones. Like I hear the big rec is just to make sure that you have like isolation headphones or like sound cancellation rather.
Okay, a big aha moment to your last question was like AirPod Pros.
Sure.
Because I had like the old shitty AirPods, and
these are yours, right?
Yeah. Those. Yeah, I remember I was out and everyone had AirPods, and I was like, I don't need that shit. And then just how noisy the bus is and how noisy planes are. And then one day I was like, can I try those real quick? I put them in, and it was like, you turn on the sound canceling, and like every single noise just disappears. And it was just like, you know?
Yeah.
So get AirPod Pros.
Yeah. Favorite bunk?
I'm a I mean, it's tough because it depends where people tend to hang out if they're in the front of the back lounge, but I'm a bottom back passenger because the doors, if you have sliding doors or air doors, the sound of the door closing always makes a knocking sound.
Yes, but on the driver's side.
On the driver's side.
Yes.
So I'm whatever side that side isn't. But
sure.
and I tend to like the bottom just because I want to give people who are maybe a bit older or who are a bit bigger than me priority on the middle bunk.
Sure.
I think it's just kind of like I'm young and I don't need it. And if I have to go on the top, I will, but I prefer to just go on the bottom so that way I can just roll out. Roll out.
It's almost like a spy movie.
Yeah, it's silly. Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, some great recs. Want to go back to drumming and creativity and stuff. And for a long time, I know that there's maybe a want or need to be more creative, and I mean I see it as a musical director and playback engineer. I see the need to become or to be more creative, both professionally and non-professionally, more personal. And I know that there were some echoes of doing some DJing, and some stuff like that for a long time. I just wanted to check in on where you were at with that, and I know there's some opportunities coming up more on the DJ side. But what's the plan for creativity at the moment for you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm always thinking about it.
Yeah.
About what I'm feeling, what I want to do, and I'm always writing down what I'm feeling and my ideas, what I'd like to do. And yeah, I've always kind of loved DJing, and it's kind of just something that I've been wanting to just do more regularly.
Yeah.
I really love playing music, and I think like as this tour is coming to an end, it's like something I'd like to just put more energy into performing more and getting like a regular gig in my neighborhood, for example.
Yeah,
I really enjoy. And I think I'm kind of in a transitional phase of like maybe getting off the road a bit more. I know that our schedule is kind of going to quiet down in the fall for the rest of the year, and next year shouldn't be too heavy. So I'm hoping to. What I'd like to do is venture more to creative music directing role in Los Angeles, and just working with just staying home more.
Yeah.
Working on more creative things there. Whether that is drumming again on some things, or DJing, or honestly making some of my own music as well.
Yes, yeah.
Quite a few things I'd like to do, but I want to just be home for a while and figure it out.
It's wild how like being home just really makes you like do more things, It gives you access to a whole bunch of different stuff, whether that even just be a desk.
Yeah. I can't write on the road.
Yeah.
I can't produce just on my laptop. It's just never really worked for me. And and I, as for taking 2 gigs at once and music directing on the road, I've done it. It's I can't do that. If I'm on tour, I'm doing that and that only.
One specific role, you mean?
No, I just mean like I can't work on more than one project at a time.
Oh yeah. Like, as in like you're only doing what your role is on that tour and not necessarily think about things at home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like I've done it before, and I've experienced, spreading yourself way too thin and trying to do too many things at once is not fun, and it ends up really hindering not only your performance, but like your work. Your work isn't as good as it could have been because you were trying to do too many things.
Yeah.
And I think that's really important to like, this is a whole other thing, but like saying no and not doing something because just take the time and think about it and ask yourself, in 2 months, am I going to want to do that? And being real about it and like just knowing, it's a tough one, but
yeah. How have you grown in that manner of learning to say no? Because it's something that you learn, because not a lot of people, especially in their early careers, they're so eager. I feel like I'm still there sometimes.
Yeah.
In regards to saying no, how have you learned that, and how have you like navigated that?
Dude, I just think time and time again, I've made the mistake of making plans with someone or saying yes to someone, doing something where I just regretted it after I did it. And like I just said, like it hindered my work, the overall of my work and my experience. And you know, if you're out touring, especially if you're touring, your time off is so valuable, is so important, and often so little. Like if you're gonna go and fill up your time with things that are like also work related, you're gonna go back on tour and you're gonna feel like shit. And you're not gonna be rested, and it's gonna suck. And it compounds on itself. And so yeah, I think this year I've been big on just like my time off is for me. You know, I do the things that I want to do and I prioritize myself. No one else.
Yeah,
You know,
totally.
it's about recovering and resting. Yeah.
You mentioned briefly a journal. How do you? What's that? What's that about? What role does that play in your day to day?
Yeah, I go in and out of phases of writing regularly, but journaling for me or writing whatever is one a very creative thing where I can just write, train of thought and whatever's on my mind. It's also a great way to establish my goals and what I'd like to do and what I'm feeling. It's also just a great way to like have a conversation with myself and talk to myself about the things that I'm feeling and maybe also just kind of documenting what I've been doing. And you know what I mean? So I think it's so beneficial, and it's often hard to find the space to do it because, it's a bit of a private thing to kind of write.
And as you said, you don't go to your bunk at all.
No, I mean, I wouldn't
other
write in my
than
bunk
sleeping.
either way, but to find sometimes like a place to sit down and write can be quite challenging on tour. But I'm always one of like going to a cafe and kind of sitting down and working. But even then, sometimes there's someone right next to you, you're like writing about your feelings. Like,
Sure.
Like, I don't want this fucking guy to know what I'm, obviously like who cares, but that's just sometimes what's in my head. But
and also just for people to know and to reference, like, sure, maybe a year ago or 2 years ago, Noah's tour, specifically Noah, maybe there was 20, 30 people now, 20, 30 people then, but now how many?
Just shy of 100 now.
It's nuts,
Yeah, that's grown a lot. It's grown a lot.
So you're always bumping elbows with people if you don't take the time to do it yourself, kind of thing.
Yeah. I mean, but it's cool. Like I said, everyone's really great. It's like, you see everyone in the halls and it's just like, you're like shaking hands, pounding. And like, It's this funny thing where you like, sometimes you see the same person like 10 times walking down the halls. And you're just like, you get to a point where you're like, are we going to say hi again? Or are we just going to like walk by each other and like,
it becomes a joke at a certain moment.
But you start to also establish some funny like things with people, like, just some bits.
Yeah, the bits.
Fun,
The handshakes.
We get on with our stage manager when we'll like lock eyes with each other and we'll look at each other and we'll like do the gun thing. We'll just look at each other.
Nice.
That's a good one.
A great bit.
Yeah, it's good.
What are you looking forward to at the moment?
What I'm most looking forward to is honestly, I might say the end. I hate to say the end of this tour, but mostly because there's some of like our most exciting shows coming up. We're headlining Oshiega in August, which will be really fun. And, we've got 2 nights at Madison Square Garden and 2 nights at Fenway Park. So those are going to be some, all summer
crazy.
It's insane.
Fenway Park?
Yeah. Like, what? It's insane. So there's some really exciting things coming up on this tour. And I really I try to remind myself not to like be looking forward to like the future.
Sure. Too
like,
much. Yeah.
Yeah. But I am excited to just like live a normal life and have like 3 months off of just not working and just kind of existing.
It's fantastic.
Seeing friends and family. And it's going to fly by, but yeah.
What's the dream?
The dream.
Yeah. What's the dream?
I love that. Just the dream. What is the dream? Matt, that's the question. What is the dream?
Yeah.
I mean, something I think a lot about is if and when I'll move back to Canada and when that is, and I don't know, and where I'll live and what that place will look like, and with who and
right,
what I'll be doing. I don't know. What is the dream? Fuck. We're figuring it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess maybe to think about it as well as like maybe not exactly what the specific dream is, but maybe like where you want to be, you know, or what you want, where you want to live, or like in what kind of state. Not necessarily exactly what it is, but do you have some like what would you want Julien in maybe 20 years to be?
Yeah, I mean, to be home.
Yeah.
To be home and to be able to just be creative all the time, and to be able to like live happily and do the things that I want to do, like cycling and I mean, I'd love to have a family if it makes sense. Yeah. Financially. And you know,
Sure.
and, okay, what's the dream? I would like to not have to live through winter ever again.
In Canada, you
in
mean?
Canada, just in general. I just you know.
Yeah.
I'd like to be able to live a life where I can exist in both worlds. Like just warm weather all year long.
just warm weather.
If I'm being honest.
Yeah. And has LA granted you that?
Absolutely. I mean, well, obviously our winter can still get a bit cold.
Yeah.
For a little bit, but I've been fortunate that I haven't even been there much in the winters. I've been in other warm countries.
Yeah.
Bragging?
Yeah, I don't know, but it's compared to our negative 40s that we would get in Northern Ontario.
God.
Yeah. Let's wrap it up with a fun little game here that we do on the podcast called the Dreamfest Game. It's basically just if you were a festival programmer, what would that festival look like? And it's almost like a dream fest thing where it's like anything can happen. And I ask you specifically, what the headliner who the headliner would be, the second headliner and opener, as in 3 acts. Where this festival would happen, when it would happen during the year, and what the capacity would be. And specifically for you, I added, what would the green room look like? Did you have your vibe?
That's funny.
Yeah.
Let's start with the green room because I think it's.
I knew you'd like this question.
Yeah, I mean, we love an artist area where there has to be good food. You know, like, I'm talking like there's a chef that's just vibes. It's like, and it's just like, and I'll preface too with a smaller festival for sure.
Yes,
but yeah, food. There's great catering. Number one. There's great little, we love nooks and places to relax and sit down, comfortable chairs, bean bags and rugs and carpets and things, shade. Shade. We absolutely need a masseuse on site.
There you go.
You know, we love a masseuse. Juice bar, you know. But anyways, you know, River and Sky in Northern Ontario has had such an impact on me, and I feel like that is a good skeleton for the Dream Festival. Something that's in nature, something that is small and not too busy. Somewhere that also is just you're respecting the space and there's no waste and you're not damaging. The festival isn't causing any harm to where it's happening. But yeah, I mean, you know, River and Sky has saunas in a river to swim in, and I was just this is the most incredible thing ever. In a beach, right next to a stage.
It's nuts.
Honestly, River and Sky is the Dream Festival. But I think as far as programming goes, it's hard to think about the artist, because they've already played my Dream Festival, but I like the idea of something where, you know, you have the music goes all night till the sun comes up.
Yeah, well, I was actually going to ask a special question afterwards, but who would be the after party for you? So yeah. Okay,
well, I'm just gonna go straight up with the after party section.
Okay.
I want, the Dream Festival is, people. Maybe it's not dance music, but then the main act isn't dance music, but you get to the after party and it's outside in the woods. There's the most incredible sound system you've ever heard, right?
Yeah.
The sound system that is just going to, blow everyone's mind. And like, I don't know, maybe it was like, the Soul Wax guys, like, maybe it's those guys DJing and just like blowing everyone's mind.
Sure.
I don't know, playing records all night. And you just can't not dance.
Yeah.
Until the sun comes up.
There you go.
Sober or not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I'm blanking on the Soul Wax guys, their DJ name right now. I'm blanking on it, but
that's okay. Who are playing before them though? Opener, second headliner, and headliner.
Okay. Opener. Fuck, this is fucking hard, dude.
Yeah, 3 acts is wild.
I'd really have to think about that one. I want to throw Fet Nat in there.
There you go.
Because it's just such a cool, fucking weird show that anyone needs to see. But fuck me. Cancer. Don't know. It's not coming to mind. I'd have to like look through fucking Spotify or some shit. Figure
That's
out
okay.
what I want to listen to.
Fantastic. Okay, so at least we have Soul Wax, Fet Nat. Any other 2 that come to mind? It's fine if
okay. Well, like I said, I was blanking on for some reason Soul Wax's like DJ project, but I would say no. Headliner, Soul Wax.
There you go.
The band, and then the guys go and do the after party DJ set. Fet Nat is supporting.
Yeah.
And then opener.
Could get something really weird in here.
Maybe like, you know what I'm thinking. You know exactly what I'm thinking.
I think maybe I know.
Why don't you say it?
If I'm reading you correctly here, maybe Jonathan Gat?
Yes, but not only Jonathan Gat.
Yeah.
Yes. See? He fucking knows.
So the drummer.
Yes.
So a few years ago, I don't remember what it was, maybe 2017, maybe 18, only the drummer of this New York-based project called Jonathan Gat played a solo set at River and Sky during the afternoon on the beach stage. It was this absolutely legendary moment. He was just playing drums just by himself for an hour.
Ideas and just, it was so musical and like,
yeah. Fantastic.
Yeah.
I can't wait for this this festival.
Imagine that.
Yeah.
Holy shit. Soul
honestly,
huge,
it could be that literally could be at River and Sky, like your entire thing. So we'll pitch it and see.
Wow.
But man, that's how we conclude the pod.
That was so fun.
Thank you for coming on.
Finally got to do this.
Yeah. You've been definitely on the list for a long time to get to do an ep, and I'm so glad we get to do it in person.
Thank God.
Because for those listening, for those watching, we haven't done a in person one in a long time, just because of the studio and stuff and everything that happened there. And stoked to get to do this with you.
Yeah, likewise. Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, of course.
Love you.
Yeah, love you, man.
It's great.
For those listening, we'd love to keep this sort of platform interactive. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. Any comments, sure. Reviews, if you're on Apple Podcasts, whatever. We love it. We enjoy seeing what people think about this, and please share with your friends. This is a platform to learn more about the music industry and the roles and responsibilities that aren't often, or rather are often overlooked. So please keep on listening, and as always, stay safe, and we'll see you next week. Thanks, everybody. Bye.
That's nice. Right? Damn.
Yeah, please take us out on the ad-libs.
Oh. Yeah. You should play this on an 808 for real. Just like hit play. That'd be sick. Tight.